Hi, welcome to eSpanish. Today we're going to look at the present tense, when we need to use it in Spanish and how we form it. So first of all, let's look at how we need to use it. Now bear in mind there's two translations in English of the Spanish present tense. So the sentence canta mi madre could be my mum sings or my mum is singing. So the first one is that she sings is a general truth. The second one is what she's doing right now. So be careful with that. The four main examples when we use it are as follows. The first one being general truths and actions that happen on a regular basis. For example, Londres es más grande que Madrid. So it's a general truth that London's bigger than Madrid. And the second one, I always do my homework before watching the TV. So siempre hago mis deberes antes de ver la televisión. So that second one there is an example of an action that happens on a regular basis. The second example is events that happen in the very near future. For example, mañana a las 11 tengo una fiesta. So tomorrow at 11 o'clock I've got a party. Now it might sound a bit strange that we use the present tense here, not the future, but we can do the same in English. So tomorrow I have a party at 11, not tomorrow I will have a party at 11. So remember, if the action's in the near future, then you can use the present tense. The third example is even more bizarre, and we can use the present tense to discuss actions that actually happened in the past. But when you're telling someone what's happened, you're telling them the story, you can use the present tense to make the action sound more juicy. So for example here, bueno, te cuento lo que me pasó ayer. Salgo de mi casa para ir al colegio y me encuentro con mi exnovia. So these actions happened in the past, but we're telling them in the present to make it sound more interesting. And the last example here, to ask questions. So, ¿cuántos años tienes? How old are you? So these are four main examples of when we need to use the present tense in Spanish. Okay, so next, how do we form the present tense? It's actually quite simple. What we need to do is take our infinitive, our dictionary form of the verb, and that always ends in AR, ER or IR. So for example, we remove the AR, ER, IR, and we add on these endings here. For example, for an AR verb like hablar, which means to speak, we take off the AR and we put on these endings in this column here. So hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, habláis with an accent, and hablan. For ER verbs like comer, we take off the ER and we put on these endings here. So como, comes, come, comemos, coméis, and comen. And the last lot here, IR verbs like vivir, we take off the IR and we put on vivo, vives, vive, vivimos, vivís, and viven. So some more examples here. I live, the infinitive is vivir, so it's an IR verb. To make it into I live, we take off the IR, so we have VIV, and we add on the endings for I, yo. I live, vivo. She eats is comer, is our infinitive. So we take off the ER, so now we're left with com, and we need to add the endings for ER verbs, these ones here, for she, which is this one here, so it's going to be come. They speak is hablar, is the verb, so AR, take off the AR, add on AN, hablan. We eat, comemos. You guys live, so it's plural and it's informal, so it's vosotros, vivís. And the last one, you formal live, so it's going to be ustedes, vivir, ustedes viven. So that's the regular present tense. Have a go at filling in these blanks here with the right form of the verb in the brackets. Think carefully about who is doing the action. For For example, in the first blank, you're trying to say, my name is Juan, so it needs to be in the yo form. So press pause now, fill in the blanks, and then see how you've done. Okay, so the answers. The first one, as we said, I'm doing the action, so it's going to be me llamo Juan. The second one, I live with my parents and my two sisters in Seville. So it's I live, again, I'm the subject. Vivo con mis padres y mis dos hermanas en Sevilla. We get on very well. So llevar, we take off the AR. This time the subject is we. So it's llevamos. Nos llevamos todos muy bien. Mi padre trabaja como médico y le gusta mucho. Be careful here, because gustar is a strange verb. This blank here refers to the thing that he likes, not him, not my dad. Le gusta mucho, pero pasa muchas horas fuera de casa. Mi madre, en cambio, odia el trabajo, menos mal que se jubila este año. Don't forget this verb here is reflexive. So we take off this se, and when we conjugate the verb, we stick it before. So it's se jubila. Okay, there are some verbs in Spanish that are slightly different, and these are called radical changing verbs. We can't call them irregular because they're not. The endings are totally regular. And what changes is this bit called the radical. Now the radical is a posh word for what's left once you take off from the infinitive the AR, the ER or the IR. So for example, if we take the infinitive empezar and we take off the AR, we're left with the radical empez. Now what happens with these verbs is that there's a spelling change in this radical part, and one of the vowels, in the case here of empezar, the E we have here, changes. So this E goes from an E to an IE, and this change happens in all forms but the nosotros and vosotros. Now we also call these verbs boot changing verbs, and that's because if you write out the conjugations, so on the left hand side here we have the I, the yo, the tú and usted, so the singular conjugations, and on the right hand side here we have nosotros, vosotros and ellos, the plural conjugations, and we draw a line around those that do have the spelling change. We get this boot shape, and nosotros and vosotros are left out of this shape. So these two conjugations never change when the verb's a radical changing verb. So that's why we have empiezo, empiezas, empieza, but then empezamos, empezáis and empiezan. Let's see some more examples here. Other verbs that work the same are comenzar, where this E in bold here changes to IE. So comenzar conjugates as comienzo, comienzas, comienza, but then nosotros is comenzamos, vosotros would be comenzáis, and then comienzan. So that change comes back again. Medir, to measure, mido, mides, mide, but then medimos, medis, and miden. Okay, so there's all the changes you might find. The best bet is to get a good textbook and to have a look at all the lists of radical changing verbs, because there are quite a few and you need to learn them. Have a go at filling in these blanks with the radical changing verb that's in brackets. Once you've done, check your answers. So press pause now. Okay, the first one, comenzar, it changes from the E to an IE. So el colegio comienza a las 8:30. The second one, poder, nosotros no podemos. Be careful with this one because you need the nosotros form and there's no change needed. No radical changes are made in nosotros or vosotros. Los iPhones cuestan mucho. The next one, mis primos juegan al baloncesto. Vosotros queréis venir a la fiesta. Mi hermano pequeño miente mucho. ¿Te acuerdas de las vacaciones? Do you remember the holidays? The next one. Lo siento, pero tu novia huele muy mal. Quite unfortunate. And number 9. Necesito dormir mucho. This is a trick one, because after a conjugated verb, this one here, which is in the present tense, we always have the infinitive. And the last example here, en el McDonald's sirven comida basura. The next lot of changes are slightly tricky. And there are lots of verbs which are irregular in the present tense. We can divide these into 3 groups to keep it simple for us. The first group are verbs that have an irregular yo form, but the rest, so the tú, él, nosotros, vosotros, etc., are totally regular. For example, the verb caer, okay, I fall is caigo, but then you fall is caes, cae, caemos, etc. So it's totally regular apart from the I form. Same with pongo. I put pongo, you put pones, pone, ponemos, ponéis, ponen. So these forms are all regular, but the yo is odd. Same with hacer, hago, I do, but the rest is totally regular. So other verbs work the same way are traer, caber, to fit. So that one would be quebo, but then cabes, cabe, cabemos, cabéis, and caben. Saber, sé, se, with an accent. I know, but then sabes, sabe, etc. The next lot of irregular verbs are ones that are radical changing, but in addition to the radical change, the I form is totally irregular. So for example, decir, it's digo, so it's totally regular in the yo form, but then the rest of it is radical changing. And remember again, the nosotros and vosotros don't change. Finally, the last lot of verbs are totally irregular, and you just have to learn these ones. There's no guessing, there's no pattern at all, they're completely bizarre. Okay, so for the first one, ir is voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van, ser, soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son, etc. So unfortunately, these 3 verbs here are actually quite common, so make sure you learn these pretty well.